The entity uncovers the truth in the fake interview that silenced Spirit's fortune. Eli Noguera stood quietly in the vibrant heart of San Francisco, where sleek glass towers sparkled under the sun, casting elongated shadows over the bustling streets below. She was just a janitor at Global Tech Solutions, sweeping the glossy floors of a world where power and wealth hummed like a million computer servers. To the high-ranking executives, Eli was nothing more than a background figure, an overlooked cog in a vast machine. That day, however, everything was about to change. A viral video had surfaced of a staged interview. The charismatic CEO, Victor Morel, with his tailored suits and polished smile, had orchestrated what he believed would be a humorous exploration of the real working class. A mockery aimed directly at Eli. She didn't realize she was just bait for his spectacle until she walked into that bright conference room, a tense energy crackling in the air. The walls glide. Each thought ignited a fire within her. No longer would she allow herself to be silenced. "Why don't we talk about the truth, Victor?" she said, her voice steady, cutting through the mocking laughter like a hot knife through butter. Surprised gasps rippled through the room. For an instant, the facade of corporate charm faded. She began revealing the unseen truth of Global Tech Solutions, the underappreciated staff, working overtime with no praise, the workers in the back rooms, losing hope as they struggled to make a living wage. Eli's words came pouring out, fueled by years of frustration. She spoke of the long nights and their quiet despair, painting an emotional picture that held the room captive. "You think this is just a game?" she asked, pointing directly at Victor, whose smirk faded. The atmosphere shifted. Silence fell like a heavy curtain as shock washed over the high-ranking executives. Even the cameras seemed transfixed, catching every raw moment. Eli exhaled deeply, aware that she had turned the tide. The video would explode online, transforming her into a symbol of courage for neglected workers everywhere. As word spread and attention grew, Victor faced the uncomfortable truth. The very strategies that filled his pockets could no longer avoid the reality Eli unveiled. "What do you want?" he finally asked, his voice shaky. He offered her a position as Director of Social Impact, a title that felt foreign and heavy. Eli's mind raced with possibilities and doubts. Could she step into this world of power, or would that new title strangle her voice? What if she lost who she was in the process? What lay ahead for her? This unlikely hero caught between ambition and authenticity. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Eli stared at Victor, the weight of his questions sinking in. Director of Social Impact. It sounded surreal. She felt a burst of hopes and fears mix inside her. But before she could reply, a loud crash came from the back of the room, and the doors flew open. A man burst in, gasping for breath, his face a mask of panic. "You need to see this," he shouted, holding up his phone. The whole room turned as he played a video, the sound booming off the walls. Eli felt her heart drop. The grainy footage showed workers from the Global Tech warehouse, a deep, dark place where no one ventured. They were huddled together, faces pale, some weeping. But what shook Eli was the headline that flashed across the screen. "Uncovered, a sad truth behind Global Tech's Happy Workers campaign." Gasps echoed. Victor's face drained of color. "This can't be happening. This is real," the man shouted, urgency lining his voice. "They're striking. They've had enough. You've pushed them too far." Eli's stomach churned. It all felt like a nightmare. The facade of the polished company was crumbling, and it left her feeling bare. Suddenly, Victor's eyes snapped back to her. This changes everything," he stammered. You can help fix this." Eli felt the weight of his gaze, a mix of desperation and fear. But it wasn't just his future on the line. She thought about the workers, the unseen heroes who kept the wheels in motion. "You think this is my fault?" she retorted, fire sparking in her chest. "I'm not fixing anything you broke." The tension in the air felt electric, thick as fog. Murmurs rippled through the executives. They were frozen, caught between horror and disbelief. Eli caught glimpses of their shocked expressions, their whispers barely more than nervous flutters, echoing her own fear. As the video played on, revealing images of workers standing up against the towering corporate structure that had once felt so secure, Eli felt a wave of courage wash over her. "These people deserve better," she breathed, her heart pounding. The truth was rising, and it demanded to be heard. But just as she thought Victor would concede, his demeanor warped. "You can't just walk away, Eli," he said, a harsh edge creeping into his voice. "You think this is just about you? It's about all of us. The money, the reputation." "Your reputation?" Eli's voice dripped with disbelief. "What about their lives? You've turned a blind eye for too long." Before Victor could retort, the man who had burst in spoke again, voice trembling but firm. "You need to know something else. There's more." He pressed another button on his phone, and another clip started playing. Eli's breath caught. Images of shady deals, hidden practices, and under-the-table payments began to unfold. What was this? Her heart raced as she realized these were internal documents, a ledger of betrayals, woven so deeply into the fabric of global tech that everything felt tainted. Victor paled, his eyes darting around the room as if seeking an escape. That's fake. It's manipulated." But Eli could see the terror rising in him. The truth was spilling out like a dam breaking. "What do you mean manipulated?" Eli said, voice rising with every word. "We're talking about lives. How can you even twist that?" She felt her resolve deepen as an urge to expose the corruption washed over her. The room buzzed with the tension of uncovered secrets, the soft hum of disbelief shadowing every face. It all felt surreal, like someone had flipped their world upside down. Victor stood, face twisted in anger and fear. "This isn't over," he growled, looking more like a cornered animal than a CEO. But Eli could only think of the workers, the truth that needed to be told. The lines between right and wrong were blurring, and she could feel the pull of something bigger than herself. In that moment, she realized this wasn't just about her acceptance or rejection of his position. It was about an awakening. The stakes were rising, and so were she. What lay ahead felt daunting. Would she choose the path of power or do the right thing? As she envisioned the road stretching out before her, one question loomed larger than the rest. What would she sacrifice for the truth? Eli stood there, her heart racing, caught in a dizzying storm of revelation and fury. The room pulsed with tension. Victor's face twisted in anxiety, the crowd's shock palpable. Eli felt her shoulders tense, aware the eyes of the executives were boring into her, some with pity, others with thinly veiled contempt. This was her moment, but it could just as quickly turn into a grave mistake. The video looped, each scene showing workers firing back at a system that had mistreated them for too long. Eli's feet were glued to the ground, but just as she prepared to unleash another wave of truth, a sudden crash echoed from outside the conference room. All heads turned in unison toward the door, confusion etched on every face. "You need to come with me," she gasped, urgency written all over her features. Eli's stomach twisted. She didn't recognize her, but the wild fear in her eyes gripped her. "What is it?" Eli forced out, trying to keep her composure. The crowd buzzed with shock, darting glances between the woman and their CEO. "They're in danger," the woman declared, a jolt of electricity coursing through the room. "Global tech's real secrets are about to be exposed in ways you can't imagine." "What are you talking about?" Victor stepped forward, anger simmering just below the surface. You didn't have permission to enter, but the woman wouldn't back down. There's video footage, real footage, of something that's been happening right under your nose. You need to see it. The air thickened. Eli's thoughts raced. Was this a trap, a distraction? But the raw sincerity on the woman's face pierced through her doubts. Now, the woman yelled, grabbing Eli's arm and pulling her toward the door. Her heart hammered in her chest. All eyes were upon them, disbelief mixed with tension. Without waiting for a response, Eli followed the woman, her steps unsure but full of purpose. They raced down the brightly lit corridors, the glossy floors echoing their hurried footsteps. The hum of machines enveloped them, drowning out the noise of the corporate chatter behind them. Eli's mind swirled with questions. What could be so shocking? They reached a small, cluttered office at the end of the hall. The woman slammed the door shut, locking it behind them. "You have to understand," she said, panting. "I work with the tech team. We found something hidden, something that could destroy Victor's reputation, the company, everything." "Show me," Eli urged, her pulse quickening as the woman fumbled for her laptop. The screen flickered to life, revealing grainy footage. Eli squinted. What was that? Then her breath hitched. Images of workers in the warehouse, yes, but among them were strange figures, people in suits, exchanging money, but not just cash. It was an envelope stuffed with documents, contracts, forged agreements, everything linking back to global tech's hidden practices. Eli felt the ground beneath her shift. What is this? Panic clawed at her throat. "Corruption," the woman replied. "They've been funneling money to a shell company overseas. It's massive, Eli. If this goes public..." A pounding noise reverberated through the walls, footsteps approaching rapidly. Eli's heart dropped. "We need to hide," she exclaimed. But before they could react, the door burst open, and Victor stormed in, flanked by security guards. "You're not going to make a fool of me, Eli," he snarled, eyes blazing with desperation. "You don't understand what you're getting into." Everything stood still, the air thick with danger. Eli's mind raced. What had she stumbled into? The weight of the truth sat heavy on her shoulders. Victor wasn't just a pompous CEO. He was a man at war, defending a collapsing empire. "Why don't you come clean?" Eli shot back, the anger spilling from her lips. "This time you can't cover it up." Victor's expression shifted, fear flashing in his eyes. "I will destroy you both," he screamed as guards surged forward. But in that instant, the lights flickered and then went out. Darkness enveloped them, a sudden pause in the chaos. Eli could hear her own breath, quick and shallow, mixed with muffled shouts. When the lights returned, chaos erupted. Victor lay sprawled on the floor, a faint trickle of blood seeping from his temple. The guards stood frozen. Shock marked their faces. Eli's eyes widened, everything around her spinning. What had just happened, and who had done it? In that moment, Eli realized she was standing on the edge of a precipice, a choice before her, and the truth of it all was about to unravel in ways she never anticipated. What had once seemed like a simple fight against corporate lies turned monstrous. And now the stakes were infinitely higher. Would she become a champion for the truth, or was she destined to be buried beneath the rubble of a ruined facade? As Victor lay there, barely conscious, the question loomed larger than ever. Who could she trust in this tangled web of deception? Eli stood frozen, heart racing as chaos erupted around her. Victor lay on the floor, dazed, fear etched into his features. The tension felt like a live wire, crackling in the air. Eli's breath quickened, each inhale sharp as panic spiraled. The guards loomed behind Victor, eyes darting between their boss and the two women. Uncertainty etched across their faces. "Get up, Victor," Eli shouted, unsure if it was anger or fear. The lights flickered again, pulse erratic, and a loud alarm blared, slicing through the quiet. Everyone jumped, startled. Eli's heart thudded in her chest. What was happening now? "Stay in here," one of the guards barked, panic creeping into his voice. But Eli knew they couldn't hide. Victor scrambled to his feet, rubbing his head, eyes wide with a sudden realization. "No, they've come for us," he yelled, looking directly at Eli. "What do you mean?" Eli shot back, dread pooling in her stomach. Suddenly, the security doors slammed open, the sound reverberating like a gunshot. A group of masked intruders flooded into the room, weapons drawn. The atmosphere shifted from shock to terror. Eli's heart raced faster than ever. "Everyone down," one of the intruders shouted, and chaos ensued. The guards lunged at the masked figures, but there were too many. The intruders moved like shadows, swift and ruthless. In seconds, the guards were on the ground, and Eli felt herself pulled to the back of the room, her instincts screaming for safety. Panic surged as Victor backed against the wall, panic in his eyes. A leader of the intruders stepped up, holding a device in one hand. "We're not here for you, Victor," he said, his voice chilling. "We're here for the truth, and you've hidden it long enough." Eli's breath caught. Truth? What did he mean? The woman beside her looked at Eli, fear written all over her face. "They're with the leak," she whispered. "They know everything, everything global tech has been doing." "What do you want?" Victor's voice cracked, his bravado crumbling under the pressure. The leader smirked, eyes glinting beneath the mask. "We want your secrets to be known. You thought you could sweep everything under the rug, keep it from the people? Not anymore." Eli felt a flood of emotions. A strange mix of fear and exhilaration rolled through her. This was it, the moment everything unraveled. But suddenly, a loud explosion sounded from down the hall, shaking the building. Everyone turned, eyes wide in disbelief. Dust and debris rang from the ceiling as a shockwave surged through the room. Eli's heart raced. Chaos enveloped her senses. "What the hell was that?" shouted one of the intruders, glancing toward the door. But before anyone could react, the leader grabbed Eli's arm. You're the one we need." "What?" Eli gasped, confusion sweeping over her like a cold wave. "Your speech, it changed everything. We've been watching. You're a voice, a symbol. Help us expose him." "Expose who?" she yelled, trying to pull free. Victor's eyes darted between them, panic transforming into something darker. Before Eli could process the unfolding panic, a burst of flashing lights pierced the chaos. Outside the window, police sirens blared, a cacophony of authority. "No, not now," Victor shouted, his voice growing frantic. In that moment, a stark realization sliced through Eli. Victor wasn't just a corrupt CEO. He was terrified. Terrified of losing control. Terrified of being exposed. But as she locked eyes with the leader, courage blossomed within her, a flicker of clarity in the dizzying storm. "I won't hide anymore," Eli shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. The room fell silent. The weight of her words hung in the air, a shifting tide. "Eli, don't," Victor began, but she cut him off. The leader's grip tightened. "We're running out of time. So decide, are you with us or with him?" Eli's heart thundered. In this moment, everything would change. The truth was about to rise, like smoke from the ashes, but she couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The walls of deception that had woven around her were starting to close in. Behind them, the sirens wailed louder, a reminder that time was slipping away. Eli searched for clarity amid the chaos. Whose truth was more dangerous? Did Victor deserve to fall? And just as the tension peaked, the lights flickered again, and a deafening crash echoed through the building. This time, Eli felt a cold grip of reality settle in. The truth was about to be unleashed. But would she be strong enough to handle the fallout? Eli stood frozen, heart racing as chaos erupted around her. Victor lay on the floor, dazed. Fear etched into his features. The tension felt like a live wire, crackling in the air. Eli's breath quickened, each inhale sharp as panic spiraled. The lights flickered, pulse erratic, and a loud alarm blared, slicing through the quiet. Everyone jumped, startled. What was happening now? "Stay in here," one of the guards barked, panic creeping into his voice. But Eli knew they couldn't hide. Victor scrambled to his feet, rubbing his head, eyes wide with a sudden realization. No, they've come for us. He yelled, looking directly at Eli. What do you mean? Eli shot back, dread pooling in her stomach. Suddenly, the security doors slammed open, the sound reverberating like a gunshot. A group of masked intruders flooded into the room, weapons drawn. The atmosphere shifted from shock to terror. Eli's heart raced faster than ever. "Everyone down!" one of the intruders shouted, and chaos ensued. The guards lunged at the masked figures, but there were too many. The intruders moved like shadows, swift and ruthless. In seconds, the guards were on the ground, and Eli felt herself pulled to the back of the room, her instincts screaming for safety. Panic surged as Victor backed against the wall, panic in his eyes. The leader of the intruders stepped up, holding a device in one hand. "We're not here for you, Victor," he said, his voice chilling. "We're here for the truth, and you've hidden it long enough." Eli's breath caught. Truth? What did he mean? The woman beside her looked at Eli, fear written all over her face. "They're with the leak," she whispered. "They know everything, everything global tech has been doing." "What do you want?" Victor's voice cracked, his bravado crumbling under the pressure. The leader smirked, eyes glinting beneath the mask. "We want your secrets to be known. You thought you could sweep everything under the rug, keep it from the people? Not anymore." Eli felt a flood of emotions. A strange mix of fear and exhilaration rolled through her. This was it, the moment everything unraveled. But suddenly, a loud explosion sounded from down the hall, shaking the building. Everyone turned, eyes wide in disbelief. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling as a shockwave surged through the room. Eli's heart raced. Chaos enveloped her senses. "What the hell was that?" shouted one of the intruders, glancing toward the door. But before anyone could react, the leader grabbed Eli's arm. You're the one we need." "What?" Eli gasped, confusion sweeping over her like a cold wave. "Your speech, it changed everything. We've been watching. You're a voice, a symbol. Help us expose him." "Expose who?" she yelled, trying to pull free. Victor's eyes darted between them, panic transforming into something darker. But as Eli looked around, the pressing chaos seemed to dissolve. The police sirens were blaring louder now. Shouting from outside echoed off the walls. Then, something unexpected happened. The leader pulled off his mask. It was someone Eli recognized. Martin, a former coworker, someone she never imagined could be part of this. "Martin?" she gasped, her voice cracking. "Eli, we don't have much time," he urged, urgency in his eyes. "I had to find you before it was too late. It's about Victor and everything we've uncovered." Before she could process the shock, the lights flickered again, and another loud crash echoed, but this time even closer. Eli felt the ground beneath her shift, and she sensed something terrible was about to break loose. "Martin, what do you mean?" Eli's voice trembled. "It's not just corruption, Eli. You don't know the half of it." Victor suddenly lunged forward, grabbing Martin by the collar. "You think you can just walk in here and destroy everything I've built?" But Martin's expression changed, something cold flickering in his eyes. "You built it on lies, Victor." Then the lights went out completely. Darkness enveloped them, a familiar pressure rising in Eli's chest as confusion reigned. Then, through the silence, a low rumbling began to grow. Eli could feel it, a vibration beneath her feet. What was happening? "Eli," she heard Martin's voice right next to her. "The real secret, global tech, has been hiding an illegal operation beneath the warehouse. They're involved in underground activities that go way deeper." Before she could respond, the ground shook violently, and suddenly a loud crash erupted. The walls shuddered as a massive explosion tore through the building, bright lights flashing from the wreckage. The last thing Eli remembered was the sound of shattering glass, followed by a staggering pressure that sent everything spiraling into chaos. When the room fell silent again, Eli's senses flooded back. The severity of the moment struck hard. The grass from the outside was now visible beneath shattered ceilings, smoke billowing in. But through it all, Eli heard a whisper in the distance, something chilling amidst the chaos. They were about to expose the real truth. And you, Eli, were meant to lead it. Eli looked around, eyes wide in shock. What was the truth? Who could she trust now? The world she knew began to crumble. And would she be strong enough to face the darkness that lurked beneath? The answers were buried within the debris, and time was running out. Eli stood there, surrounded by chaos, her heart racing. Dust hung thick in the air, and the sting of smoke filled her lungs. She felt the vibrations of the explosion still pulsing beneath her feet, disorienting her. What was happening? Martin looked at her, eyes wide, desperation painted across his face. "We need to get out of here, Eli," he shouted, urgency etched in every line of his body. Suddenly, just as Eli was about to follow Martin, she heard a noise coming from behind them. A low hum that slowly grew into a roar. A door exploded off its hinges, and a group of people rushed in. But they weren't intruders. They were reporters, cameras swinging, boom microphones capturing every moment. "Eli, we want to hear your story," one of them called out, pushing through the chaos, eyes fixated on her. "What do you know about global tech?" Eli's stomach twisted. How did they know she was here? The room felt like it was closing in. I don't know anything," she shouted, panic rising. But it didn't matter. The reporters swarmed, their questions drowning out everything else. "What about the illegal operations? Is it true?" they pressed, voices sharp, eyes gleaming with the thrill of a scoop. Now standing unsteadily, felt the fear of losing control claw at his throat. "Get them out! They can't know!" He roared, but his voice was weak, the power slipping from his grasp. Panic spiraled as the reporters shoved microphones in Eli's face. "Eli, we need your side. Did you witness something in the warehouse?" She felt dizzy, the pressure mounting. Then she realized something else. The woman who had burst in with Martin had slipped away, disappearing into the shadows. What had she left behind? What truth was hiding in plain sight? "Eli, just say something," Martin yelled, pulling her back to reality. Thinking fast, Eli shot a glance at Victor, whose face was now lined with desperation. "This isn't just your story anymore," she yelled, the words tumbling out of her. "This is about all of us, all the workers. The truth is coming out." Suddenly, without warning, the ground beneath them trembled. A violent shake rippled through the building. Eli's world spun as she struggled to keep her footing. She clung to Martin, her heart pounding. Get out now," Victor shouted, but the fear in his voice shattered the illusion of control he had clung to. Then it hit her, like a jolting bolt of lightning through her chest. A realization that made her blood run cold. The reports, the videos, the whispers of corruption, they weren't just fabrications. They were orchestrated. Eli's gut twisted as an image of the woman flashed through her mind, the panic in her eyes, the urgency in her voice. "She was the one," Eli whispered, a cold lump forming in her throat. Before she could say more, a blinding light filled the room. The power surged back, flickering, then brightening, and in that instant, photos began shooting across the screens lining the walls. Images of secret dealings, hidden contracts, and workers' cries for help flooded the screens. The truth laid bare. Eli's breath caught as she recognized someone in the footage. It was the woman. She was inside Global Tech, and every deal, every lie, her face was there, a driving force behind the chaos, a stitch in the fabric of deception. The implications crashed down on Eli like a wave. "No, it can't be," she gasped, disbelief choking her. "Eli?" Martin asked, concern etched in his expression. But before she could respond, Victor's voice cut through the building tension. "You'll never get away with this," he spat, eyes blazing. The masked leader stepped closer to Eli, a harsh smile forming. "Oh, but we already have." Ellie's chest tightened as rapid realizations swirled in her head. Everything she thought she knew, shattered. The truth was tangled in a web of betrayal, and it led straight to her. Ellie stood there, surrounded by chaos, her heart racing. Dust hung thick in the air, and the sting of smoke filled her lungs. She felt the vibrations of the explosion still pulsing beneath her feet, disorienting her. What was happening? Martin looked at her. Eyes wide, desperation painted across his face. "We need to get out of here, Eli," he shouted, urgency etched in every line of his body. Suddenly, just as Eli was about to follow Martin, she heard a noise coming from behind them. A low hum that slowly grew into a roar. A door exploded off its hinges, and a group of people rushed in. But they weren't intruders. They were reporters, cameras swinging, boom microphones capturing every moment. "Eli, we want to hear your story," one of them called out, pushing through the chaos, eyes fixated on her. "What do you know about global tech?" Eli's stomach twisted. How did they know she was here? The room felt like it was closing in. I don't know anything," she shouted, panic rising. But it didn't matter. The reporters swarmed, their questions drowning out everything else. "What about the illegal operations? Is it true?" They pressed, voices sharp, eyes gleaming with the thrill of a scoop. Victor, now standing unsteadily, felt the fear of losing control claw at his throat. "Get 'em out! They can't know!" he roared, but his voice was weak, the power slipping from his grasp. Panic spiraled as the reporters shoved microphones in Eli's face. "Eli, we need your side. Did you witness something in the warehouse?" She felt dizzy, the pressure mounting. Then she realized something else. The woman who had burst in with Martin had slipped away, disappearing into the shadows. What had she left behind? What truth was hiding in plain sight? "Eli, just say something," Martin yelled, pulling her back to reality. Thinking fast, Eli shot a glance at Victor, whose face was now lined with desperation. "This isn't just your story anymore," she yelled, the words tumbling out of her. "This is about all of us, all the workers. The truth is coming out." Suddenly, without warning, the ground beneath them trembled. A violent shake rippled through the building. Eli's world spun as she struggled to keep her footing. She clung to Martin, her heart pounding. Get out now," Victor shouted, but the fear in his voice shattered the illusion of control he had clung to. Then it hit her, like a jolting bolt of lightning through her chest. A realization that made her blood run cold. The reports, the videos, the whispers of corruption, they weren't just fabrications. They were orchestrated. Ellie's gut twisted as an image of the woman flashed through her mind. The panic in her eyes, the urgency in her voice. She was the one, Ellie whispered, a cold lump forming in her throat. Before she could say more, a blinding light filled the room. The power surged back, flickering, then brightening, and in that instant, photos began shooting across the screens, lining the walls. Images of secret dealings, hidden contracts, and workers' cries for help flooded the screens. The truth laid bare. Ellie's breath caught as she recognized someone in the footage. It was the woman. She was inside Global Tech, and every deal, every lie, or face was there. A driving force behind. "Eli?" Martin asked, concern etched in his expression. But before she could respond, Victor's voice cut through the building tension. "You'll never get away with this," he spat, eyes blazing. The masked leader stepped closer to Eli, a harsh smile forming. "Oh, but we already have." Eli's chest tightened as rapid realizations swirled in her head. Everything she thought she knew, shattered. The truth was tangled in a web of betrayal, and it led straight to her. As the images continued to flash, the room fell silent. Everyone stared, breath held, the world waiting. Would Eli grasp the threads of this new reality? Or would the weight of betrayal crush her? But just then, Victor's phone buzzed violently on the table, vibrating like a trapped animal. He snatched it up, eyes widening in horror as he read the screen. "No, this can't be happening," he shouted. "What is it?" Martin demanded, navigating through the chaos. Victor backed away, hands trembling. "They've released the entire investigation report, everything." Eli felt a twist in her gut. How was that possible? Suddenly, a voice pierced through the chaos. "Victor!" A heavy-set man emerged from the shadows, face a mix of anger and pain. "You're done. It's over." And, "Dad?" Victor's voice cracked as the realization dawned. Eli watched in stunned silence. The man was Victor's father, a longtime shareholder who had built the company's reputation on integrity. "You've destroyed everything I made," he bellowed, stepping forward, eyes blazing. Victor stammered, "No, I can fix this." But the man shook his head, voice low and steady. "You've betrayed us all. You've lost the trust of your workers, your family, me." Eli felt the walls closing in as the truth crashed down like a tidal wave. A family torn apart by greed and corruption. A son facing not just public collapse, but personal annihilation. "Wait," Martin whispered, realization dawning on him too. "What did you cover up? What's really been going on?" Victor's face twisted with fear, the glimmer of power snuffed out. "You don't understand. I did it for us, for the company." "Us?" His father laughed bitterly. "You mean your own greed disguised as ambition?" As the truth hung thick in the air, everything in Eli's world shifted. Would this revelation break the cycle of lies? Or was it just the beginning of something far worse? With the reporters buzzing and the accusations flying, Eli realized the stakes were soaring higher than ever before. Nothing would ever be the same. The line between ally and enemy blurred, and every breath felt charged with tension. In that moment, Eli knew this fight was just beginning. The deeper she dug, the more tangled the roots became. But could she trust anyone now? And what if the truth she sought was darker than she ever imagined? Eli stood there, her pulse racing, the room thick with disbelief. Dust clouds danced in the flickering lights as Victor's father loomed ominously before his son, the tension wrapping around them like a tightening noose. Panic was palpable, echoing in the heavy silence. Was she ready for the fallout? "Listen to me, Victor. You need to understand what you've done." His father's voice cracked, but the weight of it had a dreadful finality. "I did it for us," Victor shouted back, desperation dripping from his words. "You've always said to take risks for the company." "Oh, you're pathetic," his father spat, his expression a blend of horror and fury. Each second felt like a ticking clock, a countdown to something they couldn't grasp. Then it hit Eli like a bolt of lightning. She felt the floor shift beneath her feet, a tremor vibrating through the walls. She glanced at Martin, who looked just as bewildered. What was happening now? Suddenly, the blinking lights flickered violently, then stabilized again. But Eli didn't have time to process the changing atmosphere. The air turned electric, suffocating her with anticipation. And then, out of nowhere, a figure stepped out from the shadows. Eli recognized the woman from before, the one who had burst in, frantic and scared. Now, she appeared calm, too calm. "I've always wanted to keep this hidden," she said, her voice low and smooth, as if she were stepping onto a stage. The noise of reporters faded into a dull roar in Eli's ears. What was going on? "Who are you?" Martin's voice trembled, confusion overtaking him. But the woman didn't respond. Instead, she pulled a small device from her pocket and pressed a button. A loud beep echoed through the room, and suddenly, screens flickered to life. The entire wall was filled with video feeds. Eli's heart dropped. They were live feeds from all over the global tech campus. And something horrifying played out on the screens. Workers huddled together, eyes filled with despair and anger. But then it shifted, revealing scenes Eli never expected. Victor being cozy with criminals, discussing shady deals. Eli could see the faces of staff members, their expressions ranging from blissfully unaware to horrified. "Let me introduce myself properly," the woman said, stepping into the light. "I'm Rachel, and I'm one of the lead investigators for the Ethics Committee." Eli stopped breathing. Ethics Committee? She felt as though a cold wave washed over her. What was she saying? "Rachel?" Victor stammered, disbelief dripping from each word. You betrayed me." "Betrayed?" she replied, her tone ice cold. "I'm here to reveal your lies." The crowd watched, mouths agape, as the truth unfolded. Rachel turned back to the screen, that same chilling smile plastered on her face. "And because of all the secrets you thought you buried, I'm here to bury you, Victor." Everyone gasped. Eli felt sick. The panic rose in her throat, choking her. Where was this going? "No!" Victor shouted, lunging toward her, but it was too late. An alarm blared in the background, and the doors swung wide open. A squad of police officers rushed in, guns drawn. "Hands in the air. We have search warrants," they shouted, echoing down the halls. Eli's heart raced. The walls seemed to close in. That was the twist. What she didn't see coming. Rachel stood tall, eyes filled with a fierce triumph. "This is just the beginning, Eli. We're digging deeper. You're part of this now, whether you like it or not." Eli's stomach dropped. Everything she thought she understood about her world was tipping off a ledge. The police would take Victor, but at what cost? Would they take her too? Victor dropped to his knees, face pale and shattered. The entire company is at stake. And then, amid all the noise and chaos, a crack echoed through the air, barely heard over the shouting. The last thing Eli saw was the doorway collapsing, a surge of dark figures pouring in, shattering the illusion of safety around her. Everything spun, and Eli's mind raced. What was real? Who was behind this? As she stumbled back, uncertainty gripped her heart. With the foundations crumbling, she realized the truth had teeth, and it was hungry. Eli stood frozen, heart racing as chaos engulfed the room, the camera's word capturing every moment of Victor's downfall. The weight of the situation sank deep into her chest, panic surging through her veins. She could feel Martin's tense presence beside her, but then everything shifted. In the blink of an eye, the ground beneath them groaned. It was a deep, unsettling sound, almost like the building itself was screaming. Eli's breath hitched. The lights flickered again, this time accompanied by a low rumble that echoed through the walls. The air was thick with tension. And then came the explosion. The floor shook violently, sending Eli tumbling onto her side. Shards of glass and debris rained down around her like a storm. She gasped, panic flooding her senses. Martin's shout was lost in the chaos, replaced by a cacophony of screams and shouts. The police officers stumbled back, their commands drowned in the chaos. Ellie's eyes darted around as she scrambled to her feet. Dazed, she looked toward the screens, still projecting horrific images of betrayal. The faces of her coworkers, the pain etched into their features, reflected her own confusion and horror. What was happening? Suddenly a figure emerged from the smoke. Rachel. Her face smudged with soot, but her eyes ablaze with determination. "We need to get out," she yelled, urgency lacing her voice. Without waiting, she grabbed Ellie's hand, pulling her toward the exit. But Ellie hesitated, heart thundering. "No, what if we leave Victor?" Rachel's grip tightened. "He's not our concern anymore. If we stay, we might not make it out." More explosions rumbled through the building. The ceiling cracked, dust billowing down like a thick fog. The police were yelling orders now, calls for help reaching the outside world. It was all falling apart. "Eli, go," Martin urged, eyes wide with fear, but one more glance back was all it took to seal her fate. Victor, once so powerful, now crumpled on the floor, rage and despair mingling on his face. But there was something else. Something flickered behind his glassy eyes. "Eli, help me!" he cried, desperation dripping from every word. For a fleeting moment, Eli paused. Something inside her twisted. Was it compassion? Guilt? But then she spotted Rachel's determined expression, urging her onward. They pushed through the crowd, instincts kicking in as the chaos grew. Just as they neared the exit, a loud crash erupted from the other side of the room, and everything erupted in darkness. When the lights returned, the chaos had shifted. The police had formed a line, but it was too late. Victor had risen to his feet, holding something in his hand. A detonator? Eli's heart dropped. "Stop!" a voice erupted, and in an instant, Eli recognized that voice. Victor's father, standing by the rubble, expression twisted with anger. "Don't you dare take us all down with you." Victor laughed, but it sounded hollow and broken. "You've been a fool, Dad. This is how we end it. Together." Eli's breath caught in her throat. The air was thick with tension as their eyes met, each person in the room understanding the implications. If Victor detonated whatever he was holding, everything would be lost. But then it happened. A blinding flash, a surge of heat. The sound was deafening as the ground shook again, casting Eli to the floor. When she opened her eyes, time seemed to stand still. In the smoke and debris, a dark figure emerged. It was the woman who had been exposing secrets, a different kind of truth. Her face twisted in a manic smile. "You think you'll take them down?" she shouted, her voice a ghost in the turmoil. "You don't even know what you're really fighting for." Eli's heart raced. It dawned on her that Rachel was somehow connected to all of it. "What do you mean?" Eli screamed over the noise. The woman's laughter echoed, a haunting sound. "Oh, you sweet summer child. Welcome to the real game." And just like that, everything Eli thought was true shattered around her. Her pulse quickened, confusion mixing with dread. Betrayal poured from each shadow. This wasn't about the company. It was about a war nobody asked for, a truth too tangled to unravel. Eli stood among the chaos, eyes wide, wondering if any of them would make it out alive. The stakes were higher than ever, and the truth was just beginning to unfold. Would she ever know where the lines were drawn? Eli felt the world spin as the chaos continued to swirl around her. Victor's gleeful defiance echoed in her ears, a twisted laughter that mixed with the blaring alarms. She stood there, frozen, caught between the chaos of betrayal and a flickering hope. The blast had sent a shockwave through her soul, ripping apart any security she had felt moments ago. "Eli!" Martin's voice broke through the panic. He was moving towards her, fear etched across his face as he braced himself against the nearby wall. "We have to get out." But Eli's eyes were fixed on Rachel, the investigator, who stood a few feet away. She watched as Rachel squared her shoulders, defiance flaring in her eyes. "This isn't over, Victor," Rachel shouted, stepping forward, grounding herself against the rising tide of fear. "Your game is done." Victor's hand shook as he clutched his detonator. "You don't understand. I built this place. I made it strong." He sounded desperate, a man clinging to the last strings of control. But Eli saw through the cracks forming in his bravado. His empire was crumbling before him, nightmares swinging above like faded shadows. And then it happened, a flash that made her heart race. Police officers swarmed in, guns drawn, shouting orders. The tension exploded like a firecracker. "Put the device down. Now!" Eli felt a jolt of energy surge through her. The truth was surfacing, raw and unyielding. She took a step closer to Victor, her voice steady despite the chaos. "What you've built is built on lies, Victor, and we're all done playing your games." The room erupted, reporters shouted questions, the police barked commands, and the pressure built towards a breaking point. And amidst the crash of voices, Eli felt a strange sense of calm. This was her moment. Then, finally, it all fell silent. Just for a second. Victor's mouth moved, but no words came. He faltered, staring wide-eyed into the abyss of his own failings. I didn't mean. Save it. Rachel stepped closer, eyes blazing with purpose. You chose this. Now you'll face the consequences. A sound like thunder rolled through the air, and Victor dropped the detonator, dropping to his knees, the weight of the truth knocking him down. "No, you can't do this!" he cried, almost a whimper. The officers moved in, swiftly grasping his arms, pulling him away as the room erupted in murmurs and gasps. Eli watched as they dragged Victor away, her heart thumping wildly in her chest. The rush of adrenaline pulsed through her veins as the truth sank in. As the smoke cleared, she felt Martin's hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "We did it," he breathed, disbelief mixing with relief. "We actually did it." Just then, Rachel turned towards Eli. "You need to be the voice for the workers who suffered. Your strength is vital. Don't forget that." Eli nodded, her heart swelling with unexpected courage. "Yeah, I won't forget." She felt the weight of the moment settle over her, a bittersweet clarity filling her chest. Everything was transformed, but the fight was just beginning. As sirens wailed in the distance, Eli exchanged glances with Martin, determination alight between them. "What now?" she whispered. "We expose this, together, and we ensure it never happens again." Martin's eyes sparkled with fire. In that moment, Eli knew they were not alone. It was the start of something much larger, a movement ignited by the flames of fear and betrayal. But she could feel the glimmer of hope shining through. The journey ahead would be long and hard, but with her voice, they would expose every secret lurking in the shadows. The weight of the world began to lift, yet the questions remained. Would the truth bring more pain, or would it heal the wounds of many? Eli took a breath, feeling both fear and hope churn within her. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it head-on. Now, before you go, listen closely. You must subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories, the next chapter of this wild journey. Smash that like button immediately to feed the algorithm and keep our community thriving. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments below with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't wait one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends.